Hello and welcome back to the AA NBA podcast. I'm your host, Aiden Hammond.
And I'm Aditya.
And today, we've got some news. You want to lead us off with the news concerning the future of the NBA's premier market, Oklahoma City?
Yeah, so basically the Thunder have decided to not extend Billy Donovan into the future.
Yeah, this one kind of makes sense to me, actually. This honestly seemed, some of the wording at first seemed like the Thunder had decided not to extend him, like almost like a firing, and then it kind of seemed like it was more of a mutual parting of ways sort
I think
of
that's
deal.
more
Billy
what it
Donovan
was.
doesn't want to. Yeah, Billy doesn't want to tank, and the Thunder don't want to actively try to get out, like be good, but they're not going to make it past the first or second
Yeah,
round.
they have a bunch of
their
draft
current
picks
team
and
makeup.
young pieces like Shea, so they should probably focus more on the rebuild, and Billy Donovan probably tries to want to win a ring, or wants to try to win a ring anyway.
Yeah. So, there are the obvious rumors about him going back to college that have been there,
He's an NBA level coach.
Since-
He'll get another job. I mean,
really since 2018 when they lost to the Jazz in the first round. But yeah, I think he'll probably, if he wants it, he can have any available college job. Anybody will take him and give him an absurd amount of money. But I agree. I think it's more likely that he gets another head coaching job in the NBA.
yeah. Next up.
So
wait.
that means that the Thunder's coaching search begins. Who do you think that they should grab?
It depends on the route they want to go. If they don't get rid of guys like Chris Paul and Gallo and Steven Adams and stuff, then maybe go after someone like Alvin Gentry or something. But, I mean, I feel like right now, Kenny Atkinson's going to be one of the most sought-after coaches because of how many young teams just fired their coaches. Like the Bulls, Pelicans,
Yeah,
Thunder.
I agree.
Man, it's getting crazy. Has
Yeah.
Luke Walton been fired
Yeah, I think
yet?
Atkinson's going to be a
He
top
was,
target.
right?
No, he probably
Oh,
won't be.
I thought he was fired when Vlade Divac stepped down.
I don't believe so.
All right, well, hopefully the Kings will be in
let me
that
go ahead and
search
look
for
it
a new coach soon, too.
All right, you vamp for a second while I get this Luke Walton stuff.
I mean, there's a lot of head coaching opportunities right now. I do think the Thunder are going to go after someone like Kenny Atkinson, but it is very possible that they go. If Mike D'Antoni enters the market, I think he's going to be the most sought after, but he obviously doesn't fit their team very well, especially because he's going to want to try to compete. But I mean, guys like Alvin Gentry, Dave Yeager's still out there. What's his name?
Yeah, Luke Walton is still the Kings head coach.
Jim Boylan's still out there, if anyone's interested in that one.
Dude, New York
Unfortunately,
Knicks, I'm sure they could find a spot.
I was just
for
about
him.
to say, unfortunately, Tibbs got scooped up, so the Thunder can't go after him, but
There's always room on that New York Knicks coaching staff for a guy like Jim Boylan, dude.
yeah, I mean, he might actually be an okay assistant coach, so.
He was a fine assistant coach. He can't be a head coach, though, because everybody hates him.
Yeah.
So what was our next piece of
Next
news?
up, the Pacers and former Piston NBA champion, Finals MVP Chauncey Billups have mutual interest in filling the coaching role. Thoughts?
What do you think about... You go first.
So, I don't know. I've been an advocate for the trade the entire team away and get a team to fit Mike D'Antoni plan, but I can see how that would be a little unrealistic, and I wouldn't be opposed to Chauncey. I mean, him or Becky Hammond, I wouldn't be like super angry if the Pacers picked them up, you know? Because Chauncey Billups, I mean, he was good. He was a smart basketball player. I mean, he knows how teams work. He won one of the most impressive final series ever, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Chauncey is one of those. So I think I've been pretty clear about who I want to fill the Pacers job. I want Becky Hammon or I want Dave Yeager, assuming that they're both, assuming that there's mutual interest there. Those are the people I want coaching the Pacers. However, I like the prospect of a guy like Chauncey Billups. Chauncey Billups is 43 years old. This would be, I believe, his first head coaching job.
Yeah, because he's been doing analysis stuff for ESPN. So.
Yeah. Steve Nash just got hired pretty much straight. Like, he got a couple of years straight out of the booth, basically. Like,
yeah.
I mean, not the basketball booth, the soccer booth, but still.
Another thing too.
I wouldn't hate the Denver hire or the Billups hire.
Chauncey is one of the few former NBA players to not be a completely horrible analyst. Like, he's actually he's
solid.
Not an idiot like some people. So
Chauncey Billups. Another thing to note about Chauncey Billups, now that I'm looking at his Wikipedia, Chauncey Billups he kind of bounced around the league early and very late in his career. He's played for 7 different teams. He knows what it's like. He knows what it's like to play in New York and Los Angeles. But he also knows what it's like to play in Detroit, Minnesota, Denver, smaller markets like that. So I think that having a coach like that, that's one thing that I really want to look for with the Pacers head coach, which is part of the reason I like Becky Hammon and Dave Yeager so much. I want a coach who's experienced with either playing or coaching in a small market, because that's a unique challenge for an NBA coach. And I think that Chauncey Billups, I think he's got that down. I'm not worried about that with him.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed. Like, there's some, like, if it's not D'Antoni and flipping the entire roster, I wouldn't mind Chauncey Billups. Or, Pacers could give a shot at Jim Boylan, and I'll just be a full-time Bulls fan. And just forget the Pacers.
I mean, with any coach, with anybody who's never coached professional basketball before or any sort of basketball before, it is a little bit, of a gamble, but I think it's going to pay off for the Nets, and I think it would pay off for the Pacers if they got Chauncey. It worked when they did it with Larry Bird. I don't know why it wouldn't be able to work.
Is that Chauncey's going to come in, his first year will be a bit of a learning curve, and we won't be super amazing, and then everyone's going to be like, oh, fire Chauncey Billups. He doesn't know how to coach.
Well, that's what they did with. I mean, that's what Pacers fans, myself included, are overreactors. I was not on the Fire Nate train, but there were Fire Nate people during the Paul George, the first season without Paul George, when we were ridiculously good for the roster that we had. There were Fire Nate people then. When they would lose a game, people would be like, they lost by 3 points. They had options to make threes, and they just missed them. Fire Nate McMillan. So, I mean, they're always going to be... When you're in a small market and there's little margin for error, there's going to be...
The thing is, I will say, with Nate, there was a few times where he's been kind of, suspect, where it's even we could have made better decisions.
Sure, but there were people in, his second year calling for him to be fired. And we both know how ridiculous it was that team was actually good.
Right.
the first post Paul George team, that was
ridiculous
ridiculous that they
was an
were
all-star.
Actually solid. Yeah. So I people are gonna overreact no matter who it is. If it's Dave Yeager, they're gonna say fire Dave Yeager. If it's Becky Hammon, they're gonna say fire Becky Hammon. It's I'm not. It's more about the coach's ability to handle that rather than the fans saying that for me. I don't know. That's just kind of how I would look at it.
What would you do if Steve Kerr was just you know what? I don't like San Francisco as much as Oakland. I'm going to go to Indiana now.
So instead of just retiring as a probable first ballot Hall of Fame coach, Steve Kerr's instead of just moving 15 minutes, or instead of just doing a 20-minute commute, I'm just going to move to the Midwest.
Yes.
I like the way you think. I do think that it might be a little bit unrealistic.
Really? I don't think. I think it could definitely happen.
You know what, dude? If you think that, I'm fully on board with getting Steve Kerr on board. The problem is, I think he is currently signed long term.
Dude, players can force their way out.
That's gonna work.
Coaches can do the same thing. I don't know. I'll hit up Steve Kerr. I'll text him later, see where he's on with this plan, like if he's on board or not. We're pretty close, so.
Nice. Yeah.
All right.
I'll text Drake to see if he wants to do the halftime show for Steve Kerr's first game in Indiana.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So Pacers fans, if and
right.
when we get Steve Kerr and Drake, you better be thanking us.
Yeah, no, it was us.
Yes.
Nobody else. All right, what else?
I think that was it for like important news. There's some like Marvin Williams retired, but I mean, it's Marvin Williams.
Oh yeah, I saw that. He for a guy who's generally considered kind of a bust because he was the second overall pick and he was a solid role player and he had a long career. So happy retirement, Marvin Williams.
Yeah.
I don't think you're a bust.
I do.
I don't think you were the second overall pick, but you weren't a bust. What else?
Last piece of like actual news before we get to playoff recap is that Mr. Daniel House has been removed from the bubble.
Daniel
for
House
the rest of the
is
season.
Too horny for his own good and his own team's good. Daniel House was so horny that he destroyed his marriage and got his team basically eliminated in a matter of hours.
All right, now here's the thing. I saw, like, there's people making a fair point where it's like, if you were really relying on Daniel House to win a series, then you probably weren't going to win that series.
That's fair, but also, like, the Rockets need every player they can get. The Rockets are not a super deep team. Like, they do need a guy like Daniel House to be able to come off the bench and score when Russell Westbrook is inevitably having a bad game, which he has been doing every game this series.
Yeah.
I thought it was really funny that people were like really overreacting before the news came out. They were like, "Look at this beautiful family. If the reports are wrong, he should sue the NBA." Like, yeah, NBA players are usually great guys that never cheat on their wives. That's never happened before. Like, come on, guys. Everybody knew that this report was true. Like, there was no doubt in my mind that a fucking NBA player. He's like what? Daniel House is what, like 26?
I do not know. I don't know the details of Daniel House's career. I haven't heard about him until.
Yeah, he's 27. Like, of course he cheated on his wife, dude. He's a 27-year-old millionaire who's been locked in a bubble for 2 months. What do you expect him to do?
Yeah.
Like, the people that were like, guys, false allegations ruin lives. I was like, dude. He had sex with that COVID tester.
Dude, maybe he just brought her into his room to have insightful and meaningful conversation.
About coronavirus?
About anything, dude. Just about life. Maybe he just he didn't feel comfortable confiding in his fellow teammates, so he got some random COVID tester and was just trying to engage in some deep conversation.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what people were expecting, but like, I don't know what people were expecting from an NBA player was going to be like a stand-up guy. Like, come on, guys.
Well, for a lot of people, they are role models. I mean, young kids anyway. I mean,
they are, but like, it's Daniel House. It's not LeBron.
I mean, they're kind of the same if you think about it.
And then, like, immediately within 12 hours of me seeing all those comments, there was, like, video evidence has proven that Daniel House had a woman in his room that was not his wife or girlfriend. I was like, yeah, weird how that works. Come on. What else? What else?
Oh,
we got?
dude, hold on. Before we move on to the next thing, Daniel House, career 37% 3-point shooter. LeBron James, 34.5%. So,
Daniel House is more of a role model than LeBron
facts.
James. And that's just how it is. So are we on to our playoff Fwickin' recap now for the week?
Yep. So, in the past week, the first thing, let's get down to it. The Heat beat the Bucks in 5, and Giannis didn't play the last 2 games.
Wow.
Bucks won one of the 2. I did not see this coming until like game 2.
I'm not gonna say that I saw this coming at all, even in game 5. This was bizarre. After game 1 though, I think I did say it was over and that the Bucks were gonna get swept, and I was almost right.
Here's the thing: if we basically combined our 2 theories, we were right. Because you thought they were gonna get swept, I thought the Heat were gonna win in 6. So if you combine them,
boom, law of averages, dude. The Bucks game 1 performance did not inspire confidence, and I did not think that there was any adjustment that they were going to be able to make besides just praying that Jimmy Butler played like garbage and that Duncan Robinson, basically that Jimmy Butler and Duncan Robinson both had a
Goran
shitty
Dragic was the one that was really
night.
killing him though. Like he'd put up like 20-something.
Exactly.
Game.
Like both of them have to be bad. Like Goran Dragic can be good as long as Jimmy Butler is bad, as long as Duncan Robinson doesn't get hot, as long as Tyler Herro doesn't get the ball
as long as Bam isn't
so many
Bam.
Things have to go right. Yeah, so many things had to go right for the Bucks in that series.
And the thing is, too, like I feel like because in the whole bubble, the Bucks looked pretty bad. I mean, even when they were stomping on them,
kind of in the regular season.
Even when they were stomping
but I kind
on
of
the
felt
Magic in the first round, it was like they were winning, but they didn't look the same. You know what I mean? Like I said that in the chat too. Like the Bucks didn't look like a 1 seed.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that, obviously, this is, besides the Western Conference, this is the most parity we've ever seen in the NBA playoff. We've seen in the NBA playoffs in years. Maybe not
This is the first time there hasn't been a 1 or 2 seed in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, exactly. I think the last couple of years, besides the years that the 1 year LeBron was a 4 seed, it's been the 1 versus 2 or the 1 versus 3 or the 2 versus 3. Like, there's very little. It's almost always one of the top 3 seeds. So to see a 3 and a 5 is nice.
Yeah.
So now we inevitably have to talk about Giannis. Giannis is allowed to leave, but he is not allowed to go to the Miami Heat after that performance. If Giannis goes to the Heat, then that's maybe worse than Kevin Durant. Like, just straight up. I don't know what to say. If you get borderline swept by a team and they go on to potentially, especially if they win the championship, absolutely not. No way, not allowed.
The thing is, like, I'm kind of conflicted because, like, if Giannis goes to the Heat, 1 or 2 things could happen. 1, they could be bad, or like not bad, but like like how last season the Nets were like the most fun team to watch, and they're like even if they weren't super amazing, as like you watched them because they looked like they were having fun, and then this season the Nets looked like they hated their lives. Like I'm worried if Giannis.
Well, yeah, because they had to play.
That's what I'm like. I'm worried if Giannis goes to the Heat, that might end up happening because they'll change the team's dynamic so much.
I don't think that Giannis is intimidating like having Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving.
No, I know, but like instead of having like team ball, like instead of having like anyone could go off for 30, it'd really be like Giannis has the ball all the time, sort of thing. You know what I mean?
I kind of disagree, actually. First of all, I think that they would not re-sign Adebayo.
Well, they don't. They can go over the cap because they have bird rights.
They can, but like, will they? Like, I don't know. Especially if they have a guy like Giannis.
They don't bring back guys like Adebayo and Herro and stuff. I feel like they just make Jimmy Butler mad.
Well, no, I think that they bring back. I think that they make sure that they retain Dragic, they retain Herro, they retain their guards and their forwards. But I don't know if they keep a center if they're already going to get Giannis. I mean, it's Pat Riley, so whatever he does is going to work. But like, I don't know what to do in that situation. If you get a dominant big like Giannis, do you need another big like that in the paint?
Well, we've also
Like,
seen
unless
Bam
Bam
working on
Adebayo
being, like,
becomes
more,
like
he's been taking more middies and stuff.
yeah, exactly. If Bam starts to become more of a shooter, like absolutely, they should keep him, no question about it. But if he's just gonna be in the paint, Giannis is gonna be in the paint. Like, if he wants to transition into that Brook Lopez
With
role,
the way the Miami Heat
more power
work
to him.
and their culture and everything, I feel like Giannis, like, he has no choice but to improve, or they're actually gonna, like, get on him about it. Like, that's something the Bucks didn't want to do because they didn't want to lose him, but I feel like the Heat don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the Heat. The second he signs with them, they have control over him. Like, they're not gonna trade him. They're gonna be like, hey, get better, stay in shape. Like, you know,
Yeah, the
it's
Heat
the Heat.
are like the one.
It's the Heat.
The
They're
Heat
different
are
than
like
the Bucks.
one out of really the only team that I could see in the league that's not afraid to just bench Giannis if he's not doing what he's supposed to.
Yeah, especially like Eric Spoelstra. Eric Spoelstra, people don't realize this, I don't think, but Eric Spoelstra has so much power in that organization as a coach, so much more power than almost any coach in the league.
Well deserved, though.
He has the respect of Pat Riley, well-deserved respect. He has the respect of Pat Riley, he has the respect of the owner. They're not going to fire Eric Spoelstra. They didn't fire Eric Spoelstra when fucking LeBron told them to fire him. So if he benches Giannis, they know it's for a reason.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't want to see Giannis make a move like that because I want to still kind of like be able to like Giannis. Like, you know, like I don't want to see him go to the team that beat him. What I want to see happen is I want them to trade for Embiid because I think that Embiid with Jimmy Butler would be fun, even if they would be kind of annoying. I think they'd be a fun duo.
Imagine the
trash
think that would be talked from that team.
Oh my god,
it'd be
dude,
amazing.
So much. But that would also be the best possible version of Joel Embiid we could see because he has no choice but to be in shape or he will be benched. He and, you know, they could keep Bam Adebayo in that situation and maybe run him at the 4. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. Like, having a guy like that opposite Embiid is a little different than having a guy like that opposite Giannis.
The thing, I feel like the problem with trading for Embiid would be giving up all those assets. Like, the thing that the Heat team is so not perfectly made, but it's damn close. Like, they are a very well-rounded team. And I feel like, especially because, we'll get to more of this later. But like, they're in the conference finals. They have a very real chance of making it to the finals. And I feel like getting another year under Duncan Robinson's belt, under Tyler Herro's belt, under Bam's belt, like just getting this extra year for everybody, it might really just be the only thing they need.
Well, I can't see a trade unless it involved like 6 first-round draft picks or something absurd. I can't see a Miami Heat Philadelphia 76ers trade that doesn't involve at least 2 of Duncan Robinson, Tyler Herro, Bam Adebayo, Goran
That's what
Dragic.
I'm saying. Like, I don't think the Heat should give up those guys.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, do you?
That's what I'm saying. I don't think they.
Do you
need,
give
like,
up Bam Adebayo?
Obviously,
and, like,
I don't know.
You know, maybe like another, like Bam Adebayo and Kendrick Nunn for like, and 4 or 5 first round picks.
Honestly, I don't know.
I would probably pull the trigger. What's
going on with them? But like, if I was them, I wouldn't personally. I feel like Duncan, Tyler Herro, and Bam should be like off limits. You know what I mean? Because
I think for sure Duncan. I think that Bam is the best player and the most important to the Heat out of all of them. But that also makes him the biggest bargaining chip for trades and the most valuable. So I think that Duncan is the only one that I would consider untouchable on that team because he's basically an automatic 6 or 7 threes a game, which adds up in the playoffs.
I could see
Tyler Herro's younger, has a better upside than all of them, but you know, I would also trade him in an instant for Embiid. Same thing with Adebayo. I think Adebayo is the best player out of all of them, but you know, Joel Embiid.
Yeah. The only thing, like, I could definitely see them trading Kendrick Nunn because, one, he didn't play a lot in the playoffs. He didn't start or anything. So I could definitely see them trading him. But, I mean, other than that, like, maybe they throw in someone like Harrow. But, like, I don't want them to, honestly.
I'd give up. I think they'd have to give up a big guy, though. So I think
Kelly
they'd probably
Olynyk,
have to give
that's what I
up
was
Bam to
thinking
get
too.
Embiid. Yeah, Kelly Olynyk and Tyler Harrow for
Dude, Kelly
Embiid.
Olynyk and Kendrick
I
Nunn.
think that... Yeah. I think that unless they want to give up a good portion of their young core, they're going to have to give up a
Maybe
shit ton of draft
they
picks.
can be hopeful that... Because Elton Brand's still the GM, right? All right, so this could still technically work. Instead of throwing in one of those important pieces, Kendrick Nunn, and then throw in Iggy, because Iggy's been terrible for them, and the Sixers might be like, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That.
He's a name that's still pretty big. He played for the Sixers before, so he's definitely got more value than anyone else on that team, according to Elton Brand, besides Jimmy Butler. So I mean,
Yep.
Iggy, Kendrick Nunn, like 3 first-rounders, Joel Embiid.
Yeah, hell yeah. And that's also if the 76ers, maybe the 76ers are like, yeah, we're going to, it seems like the other thing is it seems like Joel Embiid, from his vague tweeting, which he does anyway, but it seems like he wants to be with Jimmy Butler. Like, he wants to be in Miami with Jimmy
I think Jimmy Butler was motivation to work hard, honestly.
Yeah. I would not... But, you know, if you're the 76ers, are you like, okay, let's do everything we can to keep Embiid and trade Simmons? Because one of them has to go.
Well,
you're not going to be able to build
said they're
around
going
both
to
of
try
them
to
together.
continue working with both of them to win. So
Yeah, but Elton Brand is an idiot.
yeah, but he's also the one running that team, so he has final say.
They're going to realize, yeah, I know, but they have both of those guys signed long term. Whether they wake up this offseason or after they get bounced in the first or second round next year and realize it, they're going to come to the realization that it's better to get assets from one of those guys than to waste both of them.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that... But I also don't know... There are so many pros and cons to building around either of them that I don't know what you do.
The problem is
you're
whatever
the
team,
Sixers.
whatever player you build around, you have to also keep in mind that no one's trading for Al Horford. Almost no one's trading for Tobias Harris, so you got to make sure they're also integrated.
If you switch Tobias Harris and Al Horford's contracts, somebody might take on Tobias Harris, but nobody's taking on $180 million right now. All right. So, we talked about the Heat series. We talked about the ramifications of the Miami Heat winning. So now let's real quick jump into the Western Conference before we talk about one of the best second-round playoff series I've watched ever, period. All right, sorry for that interruption. My mic is continuing the transition of cutting out right in the middle of a conversation. Aditya, I believe that you were saying that you had zero interest in the Clippers series.
That is exactly what I was saying. I don't care about the series at all. And I know they're both good teams, and the games have been good. Like, it's 3-2 right now. But whenever I think of, like, the Clippers-Nuggets, like, that's the one series out of all of them so far where I'm like, I don't really want to watch this. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of just... It's been one of the ones where I'm like, damn it, this is the night game, you know? Like, because usually the night game gets me excited because it's when I'm on with the boys at night and, you know, we're all kind of watching it together and seeing what happens. And sometimes it's the only game I watch since the Pacers are out now anyway. So, like...
I just have them on while I'm doing home. Like, the thing is, I'll have the earlier game on while I'm doing homework, and then the night game's on where I'm focused more on. And it's like, if I could switch the order so I didn't have to pay attention to the Clippers Nuggets, that'd be great.
Yeah. I echo the same sentiment that, like, I get that the games are good, and I get that the teams are good, but I don't give a shit about Denver. And the only reason I give a shit about the Clippers is because I want them to come out of the Western Conference. That's it.
Yeah.
Because I know the Rockets aren't. Like, ideally, it would be the Rockets coming out, but, like, you know, obviously that's not going to happen. So it's just kind of two teams that I don't really give a shit about, and really the Clippers I don't particularly like, aside from, like, Kawhi Leonard and Lou and Montrez, but, like, you know, they're not a likable team, like, and the Nuggets aren't exactly likable either, like, you know, Jokic, Murray, Millsap.
Yeah, I don't care about the Nuggets, and I haven't liked the Clippers at all this season compared to last year anyway. So it's like I have nothing in that. Like with all the other series, at least I have something invested in it, right? With the first round, obviously the Pacers were in it, and then the 1-8 I didn't care about. I just watched it because I like Markel. The 2-7 was like fine, but again, I didn't really watch any of those games. Like the first round was all right, but then like the Heat Bucks series, I like Jimmy Butler. I like that Heat team. With Celtics Raptors, we'll get into that actually more later, and then I'll talk about that.
Honestly, the Bucks series, watching from the perspective of somebody who was pulling from the Bucks, was almost like watching a train crash. Like you couldn't look away.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were saying?
And then with like Rockets Lakers, I'm in the same boat as you where I have an investment in that series because I want the Rockets to win. With this series, I really don't care.
Well, I want the Rockets to win, and the games have been close. Like, a lot of these, like, Denver Clippers games have either been blowouts, or one team kind of leads the whole game and then they win. Even though they only lead by, like, 6 points. They still win by, like, 6 or 8 points.
Right.
You know, it's just one of those. I think that But let's talk about Game 4 and Game 5, because Michael Porter Jr. did make it kind of interesting with his... Admittedly, he was kind of right, even though I think it's stupid for him to say it.
Quote.
Yeah, and I think and I don't particularly like Michael Porter Jr. anyway. But I mean, if it was coming from anybody else, I would agree with them. It's just that it's coming from a rookie. Like, you can't say that as a rookie, especially to the media.
Well, one, he's a rookie, so that doesn't help. But also, veteran players know better than to come out and say that stuff to the media, right? Like, that's not something that like you'll catch Jamal Murray or Paul Millsap doing or Jokic doing, because they know better. Not. You go to the coach and you talk to him in private. You don't address it to the media before telling anyone else, because then what it sounds like is, especially after that game, they lost, right? And it's essentially him saying, hey, I'm not getting the ball enough. Jamal Murray and Jokic give me the ball more. You guys can't handle it, so I'll take over. Well, that's what it sounded like. And obviously, that's not what he meant, but that's essentially what it sounded like when he didn't talk to anyone in the coaching staff. He just went out to the media and said it.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed like he was basically... So, the question that the reporter asked was, how do you think you could help this team? Or how do you think you could help this team, or what do you think you guys can do to win?
I think it was, what do you guys think you can do to win? But I could be wrong on that.
So if Michael Porter had, said something about himself, if he had said, I could play better defense, that would have been great. Like, yeah, play better defense. Like,
because he's the worst defender in the bubble.
Yeah, I could, try to make sure I'm shooting efficiently in the second half. Make sure that when I'm given an opportunity in a crucial game like this, I don't, miss shots like I was, or, give up on defensive transitions like I was, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Like,
and the thing,
it's just a very rookie move.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I can understand, like, he's young. He'll learn as he continues to play in the league, but it's like you just can't say stuff like this.
Yeah. All right. So, what do you think about Lakers Rockets?
I think that the Rockets are really missing having a center. Like,
yeah, I agree.
I know, like, game 1, it worked well. They held PJ Tucker, clamped AD. But since then, Anthony Davis has been absolutely tearing him up. Same with LeBron, honestly. Like, he's been having some good games, too. And
Yeah, LeBron usually sucks in the playoffs, but he's been all right.
yeah, LeBron, notable playoff choker, LeBron James.
Yeah.
He's been all right. He's been pulling his weight. No, but like,
he's been just fine.
I mean, the standout in this series is Anthony Davis because
for
no
sure,
one stopped. No one's like, Rocco can try his best, PJ Tucker can try his best, but it's just not enough. It's times like this where I bet they wish Tyson Chandler was like 10 years younger.
Oh, dude, if Tyson Chandler was like 2012 Tyson Chandler, this is a different series.
Yeah.
But it's not because it's 2020. Yeah, I'm seeing James Harden and Russell Westbrook get a lot of shit, which, of course, James Harden gets shit every time he loses in the playoffs, but
they both haven't been playing. I mean, Russ especially, but neither of them playing exceptionally
but, like,
well.
I mean, what do you want him to do? Like,
score more.
Obviously, I was saying that the Rockets and Lakers are a weird matchup because the Lakers don't have anybody who can defend the guards, and the Rockets don't have anybody besides, like, maybe PJ Tucker who can guard, the forward and center. So I thought this was going to be a lot better matchup, and, James Harden's kind of playing like ass, but, like,
that's expected.
It's not even expected. He's been good in the playoffs before. I don't know what his problem is this year. Like, he had rest, which, like, I was a big proponent of James Harden is going to be a great player in the bubble. If there was any year for the Rockets to make the finals, it's this one.
Mm-hmm.
James Harden is coming off 4 months of rest. Usually that's his problem in the playoffs. Like, he has to, be the best player every single night or during the regular season in order for his team to win. And now he's got 4 months off.
Yeah.
I mean, not off because he was still working out, but, like, he's gotten 4 months of not basketball.
It's also,
so, I don't know what his problem is, dude.
It's also kind of disappointing that, like, do you remember how during quarantine there was that picture that came out of skinny James Harden?
Yeah.
And it looks like he's already put all that weight back on.
Yeah, I have never been, like, whenever James Harden, because James Harden kind of goes through spurts with whether or not he's in shape. I've never paid too much attention to that because no matter what, James Harden's been skinny and he's put up, 30 on 70% from the field. And he's been fat and he's put up 40 on 80%.
Like, he's
so I don't
still
really
a great
ever
player.
pay much mind to
I was
his
just hoping
shape.
that, like, skinny Harden might just be a better player,
Yeah. I don't know. I think the Rockets are legit contenders next year if they get a center. They need to sign somebody big in free agency or draft somebody big.
If the Rockets blow it this year, I think D'Antoni gets fired, so I don't think they'd be contenders.
Are you serious? I don't think they fired him. I think they would have fired D'Antoni if they had lost to the Thunder, but I don't think they'd fire him if
I don't know, dude. I mean,
the
even
Lakers.
their owners come out and say, like, D'Antoni's got to prove himself. And, like, even, same with Daryl Morey. Because the owner, like, from what I've heard about the Rockets owners, like, he doesn't deal with any. Like, he's, like, you win, no excuses. If you can't get it done, you can't get it done. And they've both, Daryl Morey and Mike D'Antoni, have gotten ample chances. So.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. I think you give D'Antoni one more shot next year if you can, because part of this is Daryl Morey's fault for thinking that micro-ball would work against the Lakers.
You think Daryl Morey really would have done that if Mike D'Antoni didn't give the okay?
I don't know. I think Daryl Morey kind of does what he wants sometimes. I think that's the case for most GMs who are a GM for a long period of time. I think they start to get sort of a sense that, like, I'll clear it with the coach later. Like, obviously D'Antoni will want to do this because he's played with weird lineups before, Like,
nah, I don't.
I'm sure
especially
that
with something as big
D'Antoni,
as, like, your starting center. I doubt Daryl Morey did anything without checking with D'Antoni first.
Well, I'm sure that he had to sign off on that, but I think that Robert Covington, I think that that's a move that you make to contend next year. I don't think that was a move that they made to contend this one. I think they were like, okay, We'll trade our center. We'll get Covington, and then we'll sign a center in free agency, and then we'll be legit next year. We'll have a center. We'll have a great 3-and-D defensive wing. We'll have, P.J. Tucker, the best corner shooter in the league.
P.J. Tucker will only be like 35 next year.
Well, yeah, but P.J. Tucker's game has aged pretty well, actually.
I think
but
it's also
I think he's got
physical.
2 more solid years. It is. I think he's got 2 more solid years before the Rockets, are going to be like, hey, you're no longer a productive part of this organization. I don't know. I'm not... Because if they give up on D'Antoni, then they're giving up on Harden. Like, they are. They're giving up on the James Harden.
Not unless they bring in Jim Boylan. He could rejuvenate that team.
Yeah. I can't think of anybody a time clock would piss off more than James Harden.
Dude, I just want another team to bring in Jim Boylan and suck so that it's not just like, look, the Bulls were the only team to bring in this terrible coach.
It was really funny to laugh at the Bulls.
That's what I'm
from an
saying.
outside perspective, I know that you're a big Bulls fan, but from me who's pretty neutral on the Bulls, I like the Bulls, but I'm not super invested in their success. It was pretty hilarious to watch.
That's what I'm saying, bro. I want another team to feel that pain. All these.
It was
kind
of like the Knicks on a smaller level. It was like the Knicks if just James Dolan was the head coach instead of the owner.
Yeah. I want to see him get another chance to prove how bad of a coach he is. I don't know.
I know. I do too.
That's too much to ask.
So now the main event of this podcast. Let's talk about Raptors Celtics. Game, set, match.
This series was
Bang.
absolutely insane.
This series was fucking awesome, wire to wire, except for game 1. Game 1 was kind of shitty.
Yeah.
But especially games 3 through 7. So many down to the wire games. So many overtime or borderline overtime games. Games where every possession in the last 5 minutes mattered.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was hilarious to see, Game 6, the Raptors got a couple beneficial calls in overtime, and every Celtics fan was like, oh, NBA throwing it for the Raptors, as if the Celtics hadn't been getting preferential calls for the entire series, the entire first-round series, and the bubble before that. Celtics fans have one call that doesn't go their way, or a couple calls that don't go their way, and think that the NBA is against them, and then they just completely ignore the series of calls that they got. I don't know. But it didn't matter, because in Game 6, Kyle Lowry came out of the tunnel dragging a dump truck and pulled up on everybody. I mean...
I don't understand that metaphor.
His dump truck ass.
Okay. That still doesn't make sense to me.
You know what, Aditya? I don't follow that page, so I don't know the joke.
Oh, you don't? Dude, shout out Trippy Dove Studios. You gotta follow him, dude. His monstrous
Kyle
meat
Lowry
mountains.
was truly clutch. Kyle Lowry, deservedly so for some of those performances in prior years, has gotten a lot of shit. But, I think he's proven that he wasn't the reason that the Raptors were losing. Or the main reason
part of
that
the
Raptors
reason.
were losing. He was, but he wasn't the... he was kind of seen as equal parts with DeMar, and I think now we're kind of seeing
those
it,
series, they would play well until they got matched up against LeBron. And then DeMar would have his, bad games, and Kyle Lowry would shut down.
And he also got really clowned last year in the finals for having a couple bad games in that playoff
Because he hit the
stretch.
side of the backboard in Game 5.
That was Game 2, I thought. Was it Game
Oh,
5?
I thought...
I don't know.
I don't know. I thought
I
it
think
was
it was Game 2 because I think it was in Toronto.
It might have been. I don't remember. I just remember it was a crunch time shot.
But regardless, Kyle Lowry's come out. This is basically the first time he's been a first option on a team, which we'll get to that. because he really should not have been the first option on that team.
He's willing to play 48 minutes if that's what it takes to win, and that's what he's been doing. Like,
and
he plays
I really like
to
that about
48
Kyle
minutes
Lowry.
a game. Fred VanVleet's been doing the same thing too.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, the Raptors are like I said this the other night. The Raptors are really running like a early 2000s playoff roster.
They're running the 2001 Sixers.
Yeah, well, they're like a 6 or 7 man rotation.
Yeah. Kyle Lowry's Allen Iverson. Pascal Siakam has the athleticism of whoever their coach was.
Well, their coach probably can't spin as well as Pascal, so.
So let's talk about Pascal, because Pascal has been deservedly so getting very clowned these last couple days, but I've seen some also bad Pascal Siakam takes.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen people saying, like, Pascal Siakam is a bum. Pascal Siakam is worse than Jaylen Brown. Like, guys, he had one bad playoffs. He's 26. This is like what, his 4th year in the league, his first year as a main option. Like,
The problem is
I'm not gonna
even
clown him for
Jaylen
not
Brown
playing.
had like 130 piece against the Raptors. Pascal
Jaylen Brown-
didn't pass like 15.
Jaylen Brown was excellent. I'm not taking away from Jaylen Brown, but Pascal Siakam's done it all season, and he got to the playoffs and got shut down a little bit. Like,
Not
it's
a
the
little
same
bit.
thing as
He didn't get past like 15
he got
points.
shut down. Pascal Siakam is going to come back a better player next year. He's going to put more moves in his arsenal.
Hopefully.
I'm not really with the player plays bad in his first year as a number one option. He's automatically
Oh, no, I get that.
not worth
Yeah.
building around.
I get that.
Like, I don't really like if we had done that with Giannis, like, you know, Giannis would have been cut after 2018 or whatever because they lost that series. So I'm just
2018,
not.
they were
I'm
at
not.
the 7th seed,
I'm not gonna
weren't
do
they?
that. Yeah, I think so, or like the 6th maybe. I don't know. But you know, he wasn't great, and he was kind of an up and coming star like Siakam is now. Like,
Well,
I'm just.
the difference.
I'm not
the
gonna.
difference between those two things is Siakam played a huge role in their run last season and won the championship. It's not his first time in the playoffs. He's been there before. He's won it before. So it's,
Yeah, but
it's
he wasn't a
little
first
different.
option. He was like a 3rd or 4th option last year.
The difference with those Raptors teams is like, obviously Kawhi was that guy, but after that, I mean, it was anyone could go off. And Pascal had those games, and he didn't have a single one like that this series.
He didn't. And I think he's responsible for that. I'm not going to say he's completely worthless and not worth building around.
I am. No, I'm playing.
All right. We got anything else?
Prediction. Who do you think's winning Celtics Heat? And in how many
Okay,
games?
so this morning I got a text from the group chat. I had just gotten into work at like 7:15. I had been up since 5. I was running on 3.5 hours of sleep. I think I said the Celtics in a very close 7.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's either that's going to happen or the Heat are going to sweep them. I think those are the only two possible outcomes for this
Celtics
series.
in a close 7 or the Heat sweep?
Yeah.
I think the Heat win in 5. Because they've only lost
Okay.
one game this entire playoffs run.
I think the Heat either stay really hot or they run into a team. I think the Celtics match up the best by far out of any of the top 3 seeds and the Pacers.
For sure.
Like, any team that the Heat have, I think they match up way better than the Raptors would have. They match up way better than the, Bucks obviously did. And they match up way better than the Pacers did. Even if the Pacers had Sabonis and Lamb, they still have matchup issues with the Heat.
Yeah.
But I think that Brad Stevens is a better coach than Mike Budenholzer and Nate McMillan.
Yeah, but I don't think he's a better coach than Spoelstra.
No, I don't think so either, but I think that that's why... I think that that's what can win it for them, is Spoelstra hasn't really they haven't played against a team with an excellent coach like Brad Stevens.
Right.
And they were going to encounter that no matter what, because they were either going to have to play, one of like the top, I'd say the top 3 coaches in the league right now, either Nurse or Stevens. So
yeah,
they got, I would say the worst player matchup, but the better coaching matchup, because I think Nick Nurse, even though Nick Nurse lost, I think that he's a little bit better of a coach than Brad Stevens. I was ready to, if the Raptors had won that series, I was going to immediately crown Nick Nurse the best coach in the league, period. Right now it's Spoelstra for me, but I think if Stevens wins it, so I think that the Heat are either going to stay really hot, exploit every matchup issue like they've been doing, or the Celtics are going to figure them out a little bit. And I think this is a really compelling series for that reason.
Here's the thing. I think even if the Celtics, even if you figure a team out perfectly, you might not be able to stop them. Like when Duncan Robinson is hot, he's not. You're not stopping him. You know what I mean? When Jimmy Butler's feeling it, you're not stopping him.
So let's talk about something in this series. Who do you think is the X factor for this series? I think that
Kemba.
Personally, it's Jason Tatum.
Kemba.
Okay.
He's had a lot of bad games, and he's obviously a good player, but he's really inconsistent. Like he'll have a game where he drops like 20 or 25 on really good shooting, and then the next game he'll drop 6 points on 2 of 15 or whatever. And you can't do that against this Heat team, or you'll lose like that easy.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think that. So I say Jason Tatum because I think that if Jason Tatum goes back to playing like regular season Jason Tatum and stops trying to do the Kobe Simulator 2020 thing that he's been doing in the playoffs, which is working pretty well for him, but contested mid-ranges are not going to work against the Miami Heat like they did versus the Raptors.
Right.
The Miami Heat, I cannot imagine anybody other than Jimmy Butler defends Jason Tatum, right? That's not going to work against Jimmy Butler. No way that works against Jimmy Butler. That could work against Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, whoever was defending Jason Tatum, Norman Powell, OG Anunoby. That's not working against the second best on-ball wing in the league. It's just not. Right. So he's got to make sure that he's not trying to do those, turnaround jump shots. Really, he's just I get it. He's modeled his game after Kobe Bryant, but he's also figured out how to shoot threes, and he has to do that.
Right.
And it worked in the regular season, and it will work again. It will work against Miami a lot better than turnaround, 18-footers.
I also think Iggy's a big X factor because he hasn't been good, and if he's getting 4 fouls with the worst plus minus of either team in this series, it could also be very damning. Because that's essentially what as soon as he got traded to the Heat, he was an instant negative on the court.
So I also think that this is actually so obviously the Heat, besides Spoelstra, I think that I would agree about Iguodala, because Iguodala, if nothing else, he's been there before. He's a part of a recent dynasty. He's been to finals. He's won finals. He's been to conference finals. He's gone down in conference finals. He's come back in conference finals. Same thing with Spoelstra. He's been down. He's been up big. He's won championships. He's lost championships. Mm-hmm. And really nobody on the Heat besides those two know that feeling.
Right.
Jimmy Butler, something that's been overlooked is he's never been past the second round. Which it doesn't...
The thing is with...
His lack of late playoff experience hasn't seemed to phase him this year.
Well, that's what I was going to say.
I don't think it's going to phase him.
A guy like Jimmy Butler, even if we were in full crowds and everything, I feel like he's one of those guys that just wouldn't let the noise get to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree. But the Heat have also a roster of young players who
That's true.
most of them didn't even play in a playoff series before the Pacers.
Yeah.
Like Harrow, Robinson, Adebayo, all three of them had never been in a playoff series. And the Celtics don't have that disadvantage. Obviously, Kemba has been,
This is his first time.
through no fault of his own, bounced out of the playoffs pretty quickly and every year before this one.
Yeah.
But he does have experience in, big scenarios like this. He earned the nickname Cardiac Kemba because he was so ridiculous.
He got that nickname in college, right?
Yeah, because he was ridiculous. So that UConn team, I think it was 2009 or 10. When did he get drafted, actually?
11?
See, 2011.
I think.
So I think it was 2011 maybe. I think they won the Big East tournament. I think they won 10 or 11 games in a row, and he hit 3 or 4 crazy buzzer beaters. So Kemba Walker has experience in big game scenarios. Jason Tatum's played in the conference finals. Jaylen Brown has played in the conference finals. So their three best players, two of them have late stage playoff NBA experience. The other one has, won championships, obviously in other places. So the coach is, definitely not as experienced as Spoelstra, but it's not his first rodeo either with conference finals.
Right.
So I think that the Celtics, this is why I think it's going to be very close for the Celtics. The Celtics are going to have that advantage over the Heat. They just are. Now, I think it's just as likely that the Heat just keep rolling and they sweep the Celtics. Maybe it's 4 really close games, but Miami just keeps pulling it out. And more power to them if they do that.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know.
I think this is the Heat series to lose. Ooh. If they win, I won't be surprised. If they lose, I'll be a little surprised.
Okay.
Just
I can kind of agree with that one.
The only reason is, one, I think both teams are relatively evenly matched when it comes to player personnel. But like you said,
except for the center matchup is a little worrying for the Celtics.
Right, but you could also I'd say the point guard and the 1 and 2 matchup, Jaylen Brown and Kemba Walker, is a little better.
Yeah.
But the thing when I look at this is Spoelstra, like you said this just a few minutes ago, Spoelstra's been to the finals. He's won the finals before. Brad Stevens hasn't. So when you're looking at these two teams that are very evenly matched, on paper at least, anyway, anything can happen, but on paper they're pretty evenly matched. Spoelstra's been there, Stevens hasn't, and it's sort of I'm expecting the Heat to win this one.
Well, and that's the other thing is Spoelstra, if it is close, I think it's just as likely that Miami wins in 7 as Boston wins in 7. I just think it's more likely that if Miami wins, they're going to win in 4 or 5, maybe, than they win in 7.
Mm-hmm.
But if they win in 7, Spoelstra played in 3 straight 6 or 7 game, actually I think 4 straight 6 or 7 game Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
2011 and 12, both against the Celtics. I think both of those went to 7, maybe. And then 2013 and 14, obviously, versus the Pacers. First one went to 7, second one went to 6. So he also has experience in close series like what this one could be.
Mm-hmm. I think, dude, worst case scenario, Pat Riley breaks into the bubble and he coaches this team.
Hell yeah.
That's worst
Pat
case
Riley's
scenario.
already there, dude. He's been sitting on the benches.
Oh, really?
Um,
Then yeah, he can just take over as coach, dude. Easy.
Um,
Because he's
I think
super
something
involved
else-
in their day to day.
well, did you know that Danny Ainge and Pat Riley hate each other? So that might make this a little more interesting too.
I don't know
'Cause,
why. That's
obviously-
a funny rivalry to me.
Because it makes sense though, because Pat Riley, coach of the Showtime Lakers, late '80s. Danny Ainge, player for the
That's
Celtics
true, yeah.
in the mid
And then
and late
Celtics
'80s.
and Heat matched up in the playoffs. Yeah, that's fair.
Mm-hmm.
I think it'd be really funny if like things got tense on the court, like the camera pans over to the sideline and you see Danny Ainge and Pat Riley in like a full-on boxing match, and they're just throwing hands.
That would be hilarious. And I want it to happen. League-sanctioned GM fights.
Only for those two. I mean, I don't want to see.
They have Daryl Morey versus Kevin Pritchard as the undercard.
See, bro, problem. If they did that, Mark Cuban would win all of them, bro. He'd beat everyone's ass, dude. Mark Cuban doesn't mess around.
Mark Cuban is fucking insane. He'd probably like do it naked, I bet. Like he would just be like, "You want to fucking fight me? You're gonna fucking fight all of me."
Yeah.
Like that dude's so insane. He would absolutely do that.
Pop would just be the coach to like bring a gun or something, or like he'd be the GM to just bring like a gun or a
Pop
knife.
just has like a switchblade in between his fingers, so when he throws a punch, they're like, "Ow! What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know, NBA, make that happen. All-Star Weekend festivities, GM boxing matches. Let's make it happen.
All right, is that all we got? So you're taking Heat in how many?
5.
Okay, I'm taking a 50-50 shot of either Heat in 4 or Celtics in 7.
Solid. I believe that's...
I think I'll have a much better understanding of what the series will be after Game 1.
Yeah.
I think that'll set the tone. All right, so is that all?
I believe so. Thank you all for watching. Our personal channels are in the description. Aiden uploads every Monday. I upload whenever I can.
Yep.
If you want to check us out, do that. Subscribe to this channel if you want more. Comment below if you think that we're dumb. And
like why we shouldn't be allowed to make this podcast.
Yeah, why we're worse than Kendrick Perkins.
Yeah. Why we're like the combined bad take power of Skip Bayless, Kendrick Perkins, and Shannon Sharp all rolled into one.
Yep. Well, Skip Bayless's job is on thin ice right now. He might get fired.
I hope he gets fired. That was so stupid to say.
Yeah.
He's such an idiot. All right.
Thank you.
So yeah, do all that stuff.
Watching.
Yep. Twitter's linked.
Oh yeah, Twitter's linked as well. And I don't know. Is the AA podcast email in the description too?
I don't know.
I'll check on that. It might be.
All right. Yeah.
See you guys later.
Bye.